Yeah.
Hello, welcome. Thank you for being with us today. We're broadcasting live from Park City, Utah, where I am. And Michael, you are in Miami. It looks like you're in, don't tell me, that looks like somewhere in Ireland or castle somewhere, right?
It's somewhere in Italy. I found the image.
Oh,
Haven't
yeah,
been able to find it again, but it's
yeah,
been a great background so far.
great. Hey, Ben, good to see you here. So, as usual, we can't see or hear you. We know you're there. If someone wouldn't mind just saying hello in the chat box, make sure we're broadcasting. We do, however, suggest and recommend that you post any questions in the Q&A or the chat box as they come to mind, and we'll get to as many as possible. The format for today's webinar is what we call Luminary series. We want to share with the community something that somebody is doing that's super interesting, and that's what Michael is here to talk about. So it's not a pitch, as we often do, and you'll see that soon enough. But the idea is this is a fireside chat. Chat says it's disabled. All right.
Thank you for the opportunity, Arthur.
Yeah, you're welcome. Just saw that. I'll try to figure out what's wrong with the chat. In the meantime, you can do in the Q&A. Thanks for sending that. I think we meet from through Ben. Wasn't that the nexus of our connectivity?
I I believe so. I mean, I've been in the family office space for the last 7, 8 years, so I've been very aware of your work. I think we've been probably connected on LinkedIn, like the good family office group we are
Yeah,
for
yeah,
at
for
least
sure.
years.
Yeah. So we're going to be recording this, folks, and posting it on the Family Office Insight YouTube channel. Of course, giving it to Michael, and he can post it wherever he wants. And so if there's anybody that you want to share it with after you or visit with us today, you're welcome to do so. And then we'll also put you in direct contact with Michael so you can follow up on anything that you hear today that might be interesting. And I think we're going to do this again at some point so we can sort of monitor the progress of what Michael's doing. So with that, Michael, you want to just give us a little background and then talk about how this all came about and
Yeah, of course.
sort of bring us up to today.
Yeah, of course. So just, I guess, a little bit about me. My name is Michael Calvo Elhauge. I was born in Geneva. My father's from Spain. My mother's from Argentina. Grew up between 6 countries, 3 continents, high school in Brazil, then NYU, where I majored in finance, and then spent the next 6 years advising family offices. So I began with a single family office, uh, then transitioned into a technology solution dedicated to multi-generational family offices, managing all their clients across the Americas, a little bit over 60 multi-generational family offices. Went and transitioned into the family office exchange, where I managed all international relationships, as well as 3 councils. The council was a gathering of 20 families twice a year. I was responsible for managing Europe, Miami, and then Mexico City, where we had a local chapter as well. Finally, I ended up with a multifamily office managing about 10 clients in their strategic asset allocations. All in all, throughout the length of my career, up until that point, I advised a little bit over 150 families and met countless more. And really, I noticed 3 trends that I wanted to build a business around. The first is that family offices are direct investing in greater numbers and as a greater percentage of their strategic asset allocation. The second is when families do direct invest, they prefer to co-invest alongside another family. And thirdly, and always most importantly, the single most important factor for any family when making a decision with respect to investments is always going to be trust and relationships. So all things considered, what is it that Pactum Partners does? Pactum Partners facilitates peer collaboration and direct co-investment exclusively between single-family offices, family-backed multifamily offices, and large-scale family businesses. We work with a little bit over 130 families in more than 25 countries. I have 11 partners that work for me covering 14 different languages. And I think there's 2 things over the last year that have made us stand out and allowed for us to scale so rapidly. The first is that we're philosophically not broker dealers, placement agents, or deal syndicators. More than anything, what we like to view ourselves is as matchmakers, which means that we take a deep dive on every family we speak to really understand them. We try to understand their mission, vision, values, their objectives, their sophistication, their culture, their region, their investment mandates, their philanthropic objectives and hobbies, to create a deep profile. Using that profile, we introduce you to other family offices that we feel you'll have long-term synergies and peer collaboration. We're not here underwriting deals. What we underwrite are families. Families can provide their own deal flow. Families have their own experience, their own culture, their own value add, their own areas of wealth creation. And our responsibility here really is to find you a long-term partner that you can do deal after deal with. I don't think any family wants to spend 10 months due diligencing someone to do one deal. Our goal really here is to find you a partner that you can work with, ideally across generations. I think the second component that has made us rather unique is the fact that we really put our money where our mouth is. We don't charge advisory fees, we don't charge membership fees, we don't charge a retainer. Anytime that an introduction leads to some sort of synergy between the families, we expect some sort of bespoke or discretionary compensation. Typically, this will be expressed in the form of a carried interest, as we find it to be the most aligned with the families that we work with. But if a family wanted to send us a sack of diamonds or a horse, we'll find a sable or a stave to put it there.
I'm definitely editing that part out of the recording. Yeah, hang on one second, if you don't mind. Is there a significance to Pactum, the name?
Yeah, so pactum is a Latin word. It means pact. Again, what we're trying to foster is a culture of trust and a return to honor when it comes to family office-led sort of club deals. So pactum, pact, at the end of the day, we want this to be a place where handshake deals can take place and are encouraged, and families can feel confident that the partner across the table from them is somebody trusted and worthy of their time and respect.
Sweet. So you covered the two items, and I interrupted you, so continue unless you wanted to pivot to something else.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I guess just on the other end, we are building out community aspects and some fund aspects. So on the community aspect, webinars, our next one is going to be with one of our newer members by the name of Tim Draper. He's a well-known venture capitalist and a third-generation member of his respective family. He'll be speaking about inculcation of values. His father will be present, as will one of his children. Both are also involved in the venture capital space. It'll be a really interesting family story. Then we'll be hosting two dinners this year. One will be in Los Angeles. The next will be in Miami in November. Next year, we'll be hosting a gala, bringing together about 200 family offices in support of 3 philanthropic foundations, black tie, auction, really a beautiful experience. And then we're also building out 2 funds with the goal of sourcing capital from non-family offices to then co-invest alongside family offices in their direct co-investments. That's more or less where we are.
So just if I can repeat it to make sure I got it right and the audience can see what the model is. No membership fees, deep dive into what's important to the family as opposed to what's important about a deal, and connect that family with another family or 2 or 3 or 4 that is likely to have an alignment of values and certain asset classes. Perhaps there's probably a lot you can learn by digging deep into a family, as we know. And then the revenue model is one that's not perfected in any contract, just an understanding that an SPV might be the way to get you properly compensated, and that people understand that going into the deal without having it all inked up and papered up.
Exactly. Our job is to basically to get out of the way, find good people for you to speak with, and then make sure that our involvement from there on is to maintain the bridge, to make sure that communication is clear and transparent, and to essentially not let things die with the lawyers.
Yeah, that often happens, of course. So one of the things that I'm often asked, and it is just not their fault that it's an ill-informed question, is they say, "Oh, what are family offices typically investing in, or what are their check sizes?" And I'm going, "Okay, no, you know, so the answer to that is all over the map, right?" So, is there? I think I remember reading that you're cybersecurity, real estate, but is there a certain sort of asset class that you're most interested in facilitating, or is it just a function of what's important to any particular family office at the time?
So I think we're very fortunate, due to the distribution of families that we have and their scale, that we pretty much cover, I think, every asset class. So real estate, industrial, commercial, residential, private equity, venture growth, pre-IPO secondaries, venture capital, early stage, mid stage, sector agnostic, uh, you know, shipping, commodities, AI. We're right now facilitating the sale of a dinosaur. So really anything that is important to families or anything that a family can make their wealth around. And, it doesn't mean that we can help every family. Some niches are too specific for us. We have some families that say, hey, the only thing we do is make horseshoes in Wyoming. Well, don't know too many horseshoe makers just yet, but we'll leave you on the shelf until we find another family that can help you.
Yeah. So we have a question. It might be the time to elaborate, and I think we'll have fun doing this. So Kevin is asking, how about more details on things diet the lawyers?
Yeah. So if you've had experience working with other intermediaries or other groups, placement agents, broker dealers, a lot of NDAs, NCNDAs, non-circumvention agreements, you will have families want, different deal documents signed or different compensation agreements organized. Then you replicate that process with every introduction, making sure that every document is updated. Ends up being just a huge waste of time. Uh, Oftentimes, as far as I can see, family office resources are spread fairly thin. The general counsel doesn't really have time to be signing a ton of documents every week. And so, what could be a simple process by which we take a family office bio, take a short introductory blurb, can end up becoming a 2 or 3 month process really quickly if everything needs to be agreed upon, negotiated, and everything in advance.
Yeah, and by the time you get all that done and you're fighting about the minutia or language, 3 deals could have been done, or 4 introductions, or whatever, all the time. And of course, I understand placement agent wanting to perfect their interest on a raise, uh, uh, because they want to get paid for their work. But I think the sentiment in the context of how you're doing it is much different, in that people expect to pay for value, and that you really don't have to hold a gun to their head to make sure that you get paid by papering everything up.
Yeah, I think the reason families want to invest with families is because there's an added layer of trust. Our role is to be that bridge of trust. So we try to put our money where our mouth is at the end of the day. And frankly speaking, if a family doesn't want to pay us, again, a symbolic amount, I don't think it bears well for the partner they've invested significantly more with or have taken on capital from.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of binary, right? If somebody does it once, that's the end of that, right? And it won't be long before others find out. And
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm not here to sue anybody.
yeah.
My goal really here is to add value and to continue adding value over the long term.
So would you mind sharing, without disclosing the details, a couple of things that you have been able to facilitate in terms of either relationships or deals, either, or just something interesting that through your journey here so far will sort of highlight to the group how much value you have added?
So I mean, there's quite a few different areas. Just to list something that comes off top of mind, we had a family office group here in Florida. Their area of focus was exclusively working with sports athletes. It was sort of a multi-family office with a sports athletes focus. We managed to get a partnership in place with them and the family that owns one of the large athleisure brands. Call it sort of one of the top two. which was, instrumental in their ability to both market to other family offices and other family groups, but also in their ability to get more reputational authority and alignment. And then, of course, for the other family, there's a lot of strategic synergy there. I don't know, in another one, we facilitated the direct co-investment of a $80 million sort of co-investment between two family offices working on a logistical warehouse down in Texas. Where we've closed some co-investments between one family that had developed an AI solution for treasury management and families that were looking for a treasury management solution. Other relationships between ESG with families that share an ESG focus, some work on the impact side with families that have a focus on saving the children, and then another family that has a foundation around that. So aligning foundations. My particular favorite right now is the sale between one family office to another family office of a T-Rex. So it can get pretty funny. We're working on the acquisition of shipping container vessels as well, about $500 million worth. So we're doing a lot of cool things all around.
Yeah. Talk about the T-Rex. I mean, how did one come about owning a T-Rex? Was it in their backyard, or did they get it and then donate it to a museum? Because it sounds like something like someone may not be able to own based on all kinds of rules that we don't know about, but without disclosing, that sounds like a cool subject.
So from my understanding of this family, they're very big on sort of paleontology. So they sponsor a lot of these digs. They own the land. They dig up their own dinosaurs. I think there's only, I want to say 19 T-Rexes in the world right now. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he actually owned 2, sold 1, and this is the second one that he wanted to sell.
Wow. Wow. So people don't necessarily know this. In fact, some people think Utah is a made-up state. There's a portion of Utah that's about 3 hours east of Park City that is well known for, I'm going to get this wrong, the cryptoglyphics on the cave walls, like these.
Oh, yeah.
And it's also very big on oil because of the shale oil that's out there, and known for, there's actually a dinosaur museum out there. It turns out. And so there's a lot of that sort of activity out here. So maybe I'll get a drone and scan the ground and see if there's a T-Rex out there. So it's kind of interesting to think about all that. So let's talk a little bit about why the funds, and then about each of them.
Yeah, of course. So there's going to be 2 funds. The investment thesis is to source capital from non-family offices to co-invest alongside family offices in their direct co-investments. The first fund is going to be internal. The focus of this fund is smaller RIAs, smaller institutional investors, ultra high net worths that don't have either the sophistication, the access, or the minimum ticket sizes to co-invest alongside family offices on their direct co-investments. And then to have us be sort of that intermediary, the nexus point between, let's call it in a year from now, maybe 200 different families around the world. The second fund we're building out is a little bit more sophisticated. We're partnering with a private equity group. We're partnering with another group in Switzerland that advises on about 2.5 trillion of pension fund assets. And the goal here really is to source capital from endowments, sovereigns, and pensions to also co-invest alongside families in their direct co-investments. There's a greater degree of alignment between endowment style or endowment model style investors and family offices than there is between traditional fund managers, looking at time horizons, a lack of willingness to pay fees, the same style of asset allocation. Pension funds have struggled as the only families they can typically co-invest with are called the 10, $20 billion families. Unless there's a regulatory body in between that allows for them to co-invest in smaller opportunities, there really just hasn't been that bridge. And so our goal again is to be the bridge between sort of the pension fund community and the family office community as well.
So what you're doing, how will it change the what you mentioned where, and I can say this because it's not a secret, but a pension fund wants to write $100 million check, a $50 million check, and they can't undertake and do the brain damage on looking to write a smaller check, which is why they've deployed so much capital to Blackstone and BlackRock, because they can take in that big check, or maybe co-invest with George Soros because he wants to write a $300 million check in a certain asset class, and there's only a handful of those. So how's what you're doing solving that problem?
I guess the reason we're starting the private equity fund is for exactly that reason. There's only so many family office opportunities that require a $100 million minimum ticket. Yeah. Not that they aren't out there. There's a few out there, but those tend to be fewer and farther between. The average family office opportunity is around the $5 to $10 million ticket size. For early stage opportunities, about the $1 million ticket size to $2 million. We call them the big ones, are typically around 30 to 40. So what we're trying to do is to put the regulatory body in place, partner with, we've identified an incredible private equity fund with a very long track record, and then be able to be that bridge where they can allocate heavily into us. And then we take the process of sort of divvying up that capital and allocating into other opportunities that might require smaller ticket sizes that our families have identified and sponsored already.
So the preponderance of the capital in the second fund, the one we're talking about now, the more sophisticated, bigger one, will come from pension funds, sovereign wealth, the typical institutional investor like that? Bring the dog on. It's fine. Yeah.
He's crying in the corner right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed that question.
That's okay. Yeah. It's likely that the investors will be, the preponderance of which will be pension funds, sovereign wealth, people who write institutional checks into the fund, and then you deploy the capital alongside other family offices or larger deals, so you can basically direct the money that comes in from those type of investors. Is that fair?
Yeah, exactly. I think, fund one is people that can't afford to invest with family offices, and fund two is for people that have way too much capital to invest with family offices.
Yeah, super cool. So on fund one, what's the ticket size for minimum check size? Someone's asking that question.
Yeah, we're in our call it white paper stages right now. We've got the fund structure in place, everything. We're looking for our first anchor investor to really help get everything in place. But I think someone could come in at basically 100, 200,000. I don't see it being very complicated for us to. I think it just comes down to how many LPs can we have before running into other compliance issues. So I think we want to stay overall under 100 or 100 and change LPs.
Yeah, totally makes sense. If it's the same Josh Smilowitz that I see him on the call here, but he's also involved in the same way that Ben is, right?
Yeah, Josh is one of our senior advisors, and he's also leading an incredible project with his own company, Alco Bridge.
Yeah. So if that's you, Josh, hi. We've known each other for a long time. So what else is cooking? I know you laid it out for us, but what else is happening that you see on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're really excited. We're a 1-year-old organization. I think around as of today, give or take a few days. And it's been a process of sophistication, systematization, and optimization of our processes. So I'm very thankful to see that we've gotten to a point where we've closed deals. We've onboarded a significant number of families. We have a team that works really hard to make sure that we keep doing what we do. Our first events are coming up. I'm really excited about that. would love for any family that would be interested to attend in November in either LA or late November in Miami, right before Art Basel. We'll be setting up newsletters as, we've dropped the ball a little bit on our webinar program. We held one webinar back in December and we've just been grinding since then. Next webinar, we're going to make sure to follow up at least bi-monthly with other incredible family office speakers. So those are two big things. I think another thing I want to touch on lightly, since you brought up Josh, is Alco Bridge. It's a platform that once it's built, we're going to be working with, which basically allows for deal hosting for, all the groups out there, be they pension funds or fund managers, family offices. And then we're going to be actually building our own sub portal alongside that one, which is going to be unique to our family office community, integrated but separate, where families will be able to log in and just sort of see what other family offices are doing.
And so is the platform or portal one that hosts deals that are open to investment, or is it like Assure that keeps track of all the LPs and sends out the documents, or something like a SPV type management thing?
So I think Josh would be better equipped to handle how Alco Bridge itself will be set up. I know
fair enough. Yeah.
Our internal one is going to be a smaller version of that. Naturally that one's going to have more deal docs and data rooms and all that. Ours is going to be a little bit more, call it like Instagram-ish, if you will. The goal really just to have like a family office profile and the opportunities they're looking at and the ability to sort of segregate by asset class and just generalized sort of information, but not necessarily fund all deal documents through the platform kind of thing.
Yeah, fair enough. So obviously you can communicate whatever you want to the group when we send you the participant list today, but I think there are people that would want to know about that. In fact, we had one question just clarifying. It's Alco Bridge, ALCO.
Yeah, ALCOVE Bridge.
Okay. Oh, he wrote it out. I'll put it over here. Alcove Ridge. I totally screwed it up. Thanks, Josh. I'm gonna put it in the chat box. There we go. Great. So if one is a family office and they want to talk to you about what you're doing, presumably it's because they want to co-invest or meet other family offices, how do you legitimize that process? I mean, it's pretty easy to find out whether someone's what did my friend Neil Green call them? Phony family offices. People go to conferences and pretend they're family offices, and so it's pretty easy to discern who's who. But what's a good family office candidate for you to bring into your organization? What's it look like?
Yeah, I guess sort of answering that first question, which is sort of around, how is it that we vet all the families? So there's sort of a multi-tiered approach. Luckily, one of our team members was the chief compliance officer for his hedge fund. So we do have sort of those basic compliance checks. We're not, pulling a full background check on the people we work with, but we do sort of the basic compliance issues. Naturally, we host an interview with the family. I've been in this space for a long time. I've known a lot of families. If we have red flags, they start appearing pretty quickly, just based on the traditional verbiage. What generation is your family in? What is a generation? There's some basic questions that pop up. Then there's other sort of things that'll cause red flags. Like if we can't find any information on the family or their operating business, that's a big concern for us. This family comes from a country that we might constitute as higher risk. Those are also steps where we have to take additional sort of reputation analysis, which we'll reach out to families that are already in our network or family office consultants or other people in the wider network to ask around to see if sort of there's any reputational concerns. If we have any questions as to the viability of a family office, to their ethics or to their reputation, we'll just not work with them. We're fortunate that only 3-4 groups have ever not really, well, I mean, apart from people that pretend to be family offices, but not necessarily in they say they have like $20 million and they call themselves a family office.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
real compliance risks, there's only been 3 or 4 that we've been able to snuff out. And then I think your second question is sort of what are we looking for? At the end of the day, we're looking for families that share our values and that share our passion. So we want families that love to meet other families that aren't necessarily transactional. Really, the goal here is for you to build a real relationship. So maybe you don't align on investment mandates, but you both play tennis and you're both on, so let's say the tri-state area. Maybe a real connection can be built from you playing tennis or racing cars or playing golf, or maybe you have the same foundational goals, be it education or clean water. Really, we want families that love to meet other families, that would love to work more with other families, that have either cool opportunities or are looking for cool opportunities, and that want a close-knit group that really is here over the long term to support them and their objectives.
So do you see the, like, if you had to make the prediction, which is not a good idea, but I'm going to ask you to do it anyway, or you don't have to do it. Do you think that the meaningful revenue for your organization will likely end up being the management fee and carry on the funds, or that the discretionary carried interest and the deals as a result of putting two families together? Do you have some prediction about which one will be more meaningful?
I mean, I'm hoping the funds are going to be pretty meaningful, but I
Yeah,
think it depends on what the pensions have to say.
yeah,
Uh, I'm fortunate to say that, in terms of our families right now, 130 families, about 250 billion in combined net worth. A lot of the deals we're working on are very big deals. So I'm not really concerned with revenue generation. Uh, it's something that has been going and will continue to come. And I'm hoping the funds are really cool and they all sort of feed into each other as sort of like a nice sort of synergistic bucket. But who knows what the future holds?
yeah. Fair answer. I like it. So what I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, this has been a really good introduction to the community, and maybe we can do this on a regular basis to keep the community updated on what you're up to. And of course, we can publish the Peer Insights Q&A as you saw earlier. We can do that. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Yeah. So let's do that. And I'll make sure that you get in touch with everybody on here and see what outcome come from them or you for this, and connectivity. And I want to thank Ben, of course, for arranging this. It's nice to see Joshua with you guys. And we talked on the phone about Trusted Family, which is one of the places where you got to know a lot of these families. And Edward has done a great job with that program too. Known him for years. So I really, really appreciate you sharing this with us, and would love to have you back, as I said. So thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. As always, an absolute pleasure. And do let me know when you're down in Miami. And same for all the attendees. More than happy to invite you for a drink or a coffee or whatever else suits your fancy.
Yeah, the Faena. That's where I'm going to meet you. So as I always say, thank you all for being here and sharing with us the only thing you can't make more of, and that's your time. So until next time, thank you. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.